Hi, and welcome to Genealogy Coffee Break, brought to you by us, the genealogy librarians at the Center for Jewish History. My name is Moria Amit, and I'm here with my colleague, J.D. Arden, and other library staff. Today, we'll show you how to broaden your approach to genealogy research by finding relevant local history resources in the U.S. communities where your ancestors lived. During today's episode, feel free to send us your questions via the comments box, and we'll answer them live. If you're not watching live, you can always email your questions to us at gi@cjh.org. We are also available for more intensive one-on-one Zoom consultations as needed. Did you know that we offer free Zoom workshops? We offer these workshops to community groups from nonprofit organizations, religious organizations, and schools, and your group does not have to be Jewish to participate. Topics range from online genealogy basics to preserving your family photos and documents. And for Jewish groups, we can tailor your workshop to specific regions of the diaspora, including Ashkenazi, Sephardi, and Mizrahi. Email us at gi@cjh.org to schedule your group's Zoom workshop. What is local history? It is the history of the place and people of a particular city, town, or village. And unlike general history, its documents, objects, and sites are created, preserved, and described by the local community. In other words, it is a grassroots approach to history. What kinds of local history resources are useful for genealogists? These can be everything from newspapers to oral history interviews, diaries, and memoirs, visual items like maps, postcards, photos, scrapbooks, and films, various kinds of books, including directories, guidebooks, and yearbooks, and records of local schools, businesses, religious institutions, community organizations, government agencies, etc. So why are these kinds of local history resources useful to genealogists? They first provide a rich source of information on our individual ancestors, and they also help us build a picture of our ancestors' everyday experiences, as well as how they may have been impacted by large historical events. So today I'm going to cover three major search paths that you can use to find relevant local history resources. One, searching general genealogy databases by place name. Two, searching the catalogs of local history repositories in the places where your ancestors lived. And three, by searching the archive catalogs of the local organizations to which your ancestors belonged or were involved with in some way. While most of you are familiar with searching the major genealogy databases by entering the name of a particular ancestor, you can also search these same databases by entering the name of one of the places where your ancestors lived. And this is how you will discover local history resources that are available to you online. On FamilySearch.org, you can do so by going to their catalog page and searching by place, and on Ancestry.com by clicking on Search near the top of the page, and then Card Catalog, and then entering the place name in the keyword search. So I'm going to show you what that looks like on FamilySearch.org. So I'm already on the catalog page here, and let's say I'm looking for a branch of the family that lived in San Francisco, and I'm referring to San Francisco, California. So this second entry is the correct one here because it's the city of San Francisco within the county of San Francisco within California in the United States. So I'm going to click on that and click search. And as I scroll down the page, you'll see a number of record types that are probably familiar to you in your genealogy research, such as census records and church records, immigration records. But the kinds of local history resources that I want to highlight today include things like directories, which can be business directories, phone books, or address books, and social registers, land and property records, historical maps, newspapers, and newspaper indexes that are the forerunners to today's newspaper databases, but for some very small local newspapers, these may be the only way to find out whether your ancestors are featured in a particular newspaper. And finally, school yearbooks for particular high schools or colleges in the area. In addition to the major genealogy databases, there are a number of websites where you can search or browse through specific types of local history resources, like newspapers, maps, and directories. We outlined our top recommendations for finding historical newspapers and maps online in previous episodes of Genealogy Coffee Break, so please visit our Facebook videos page to learn more about these. In every city and county in the US, there are at least a few repositories that house materials that tell the story of that community's history. These can include a local historical society, the city or county archives, the local public library, or a local history museum. By searching the catalogs of these repositories for relevant towns or neighborhoods, groups of people, such as an ethnic group or profession, a particular organization, or even historical events that your ancestors were witness to or participated in, you are likely to find something of value to your research. I will demonstrate one example of how to utilize those kinds of repositories to find local history resources. So let's say I'm looking for an ancestor who was a nurse in Philadelphia. I'm going to go ahead and first look for a particular institution. In this case, I'm going to look to see if there is a historical society in Philadelphia. So I just went to google.com and typed in Philadelphia Historical Society. And scrolling down, I don't see one specific to Philadelphia. However, there is one for the state of Pennsylvania, which will certainly include materials on Philadelphia. And I'm going to go into their collections and catalogs and research tools, and then go ahead into the online catalog. Here, I'm going to type in nurses in Philadelphia. And as you can see, there are all kinds of books and archival collections pertaining to specific nursing societies, nursing schools, directories of registered nurses, as well as specific hospitals, and even individual nurses' recollections of their experiences in a particular time period in Philadelphia history. Moving on to the final search path, which is searching the archives of an organization. These can include things like religious institutions, ethnic communities, schools, unions, guilds, and business or professional organizations, fraternal organizations, political organizations, charities, and sports and hobby groups. And I would say this is not even an exhaustive list of the kinds of organizations out there that your family members may have been involved with. So if you know the name of a particular organization that your ancestor was a member of or participated in some way, such as a member, staff member, volunteer, or recipient of aid, then I would recommend doing a Google search to see if there is an archive pertaining to the history of that particular organization. Show you what that looks like. Going back to Google. Let's say I'm looking for information on an ancestor who was very active in the Boston YMCA. So I will type YMCA Boston and archives, and You'll notice that the very first entry leads us to the record collection of the YMCA of Greater Boston, which is located at Northeastern University Libraries. And by opening that page, we can see a brief description of the contents of that collection. And for even greater detail, we can click on the link here, which breaks it down by subject matter or material type. So let's say you were interested in photographs. You could even see kinds of materials that have been made available online. And you'd get further information about how to access materials that are not online, also from the same website. Last but not least, I wanted to highlight some of the major repositories that are available for researching particular American Jewish communities. Of course, the Center for Jewish History is one of the premier destinations for doing this kind of research. It holds the various types of resources on the history of Jewish communities throughout the US, not just in New York City. A similar repository is the American Jewish Archives in Cincinnati. And for a list of American Jewish repositories by region or by subject, you can go to this website here, which has been compiled by the American Jewish Historical Society. So just a quick example of how to search the Center for Jewish History's online catalog for a specific Jewish community. The website is search.cgh.org, and I'm going to type in Denver. Let's say I'm looking for a branch of the family that settled in Denver. And as I scroll down, there are not just books about the history of Denver, but there are even archival records from particular Jewish organizations in Denver and synagogues, etc. Some of these materials may be available online, which you can access directly from the catalog. And anything that is not available online, you can discuss having reproductions made for a fee by emailing inquiries@cjh.org. If you have questions, you may write to us now via the comments box. If we don't get to your question by the end of today's episode, we will respond to you by private message. Or if you're not watching live, please feel free to email us your questions at gi@cjh.org. For updates on this and other Center for Jewish History programs, please join our email list at bit.ly/CJHE-news. If you enjoyed this program, we hope you will consider making a small donation at cjh.org/donate now. Any amount helps us put on programs like this one. Thank you for watching and participating, and we look forward to seeing you again next Tuesday for another episode of Genealogy Coffee Break.